Wage raises stalled nationwide in 2017, creating a midterm problem for President Donald Trump as he tries to raise voters' wages and also pass an amnesty that will flood the economy with cheap imported workers. Several agency and private sector reports this week show a slight rise or a slight drop in Americans' wages during 2017, denying the president any immediate political advantage from better paid voters who could help the GOP win the 2018 November election. The reports also suggest low unemployment may nudge up wages later in the year, which would give Trump and his GOP allies a potential election advantage, if the bipartisan push for a Dreamer amnesty does not result in a mass inflow of wage-cutting, cheap foreign workers. Trump and his supporters have highlighted the political importance of wage growth. In his January 30 State of the Union speech, Trump said, "Since the election, we have created 2.4 million new jobs, including 200,000 new jobs in manufacturing alone. After years of wage stagnation, we are finally seeing rising wages." The next morning, a White House press release noted that real hourly wages for Americans with a high school diploma or lower have declined since 1979. The most important statistical indicator for Mr. Trump will be wages for middle-income workers, said Stephen Moore at the Heritage Foundation, who wrote January 29 in the New York Times. "They've been flat in real terms for 15 years, which more than anything explains the populist rebellion in 2016. So far, wages and salaries haven't bumped up much, but we are betting that the tax cut will bring increased investment and a super tight job market with intense competition for workers leading to higher pay. This is already starting to happen at Walmart and other companies, and in fast-growing cities like Nashville and San Francisco. If those wages go up, Mr. Trump may not get credit from the news media or Democrats, but it's a good bet he will get re-elected." On January 31, the Labor Department reported that the wages and benefits given to employees had only risen 0.5%, after inflation is discounted, from December 2016 to December 2017. That is an improvement from 2015's terrible score of 0.2% but a drop from 2015's poor score of 1.3%. The last decent increases occurred in 2008 when wages rose 2.5% just before property bubble burst, and in 2008, when wages rose 2.5% just as the infotech bubble burst. Glassdoor, a job tracking firm, reported January 30 that inflation nudged wages into a slow reverse in many cities across the nation. On average, most metro areas experienced positive real wage growth over the 3-year period of our analysis. However, that trend took a significant downturn in 2017, with real wages, a worker's remaining pay after subtracting the rate of inflation, falling in every metro we examined. That's despite today's 17-year low unemployment rate and an economic expansion that's the third longest on record since the 1850s. It's a surprising trend that economists will be watching closely in the coming months. What's ahead? We expect this trend to reverse, with either stronger wage gains or softening inflation rates as we continue into 2018, bringing real wage gains back into positive territory for most of the country. We expect inflation reverse course and wage growth catch up as the economy continues its upward path in 2018. Many news reports exaggerated the estimated wage growth by not discounting the impact of inflation on wages. The Wall Street Journal used the inflation plus wage growth number as it noted the slow wage growth, reporting January 31. Employment cost growth is faster than it had been, but it's still shy of what you would expect if we were at or near full employment, said Richard Moody, chief economist at Regions Financial Corporation. If we were really at full employment, you'd be seeing growth in the 3% to 3.5% range. One reason for the muted wage growth is that companies are quietly imposing more healthcare costs on workers, Moody said. Firms have been passing a bigger portion of healthcare costs onto workers in the form of higher premium costs, Mr. Moody said. In some ways it's shifting the burden of costs. Economists quoted by various media outlets suggested that after inflation wage level will nudge up during the year as companies compete for workers. Reuters reported January 31st. Today's report is quite consistent with our view of gradually firming wage growth, which we expect to reach a sustainable pace around 2.53% in 2018, said Gregory Dacko, chief U.S. economist at Oxford Economics in New York. The National Association for Business Economics reported that a 48-point margin of employers expect to raise rather than lower wages in the next few months. The outlook, or wages and salaries, rose from 37 in October to 48 in the January survey, the highest index reading since the January 2000 survey, and the third highest since NAPE began analyzing the data in April 1982. Wage increases are likely to be even more widespread over the next 3 months, as the NRI for expected wage costs increased from 46 in the October survey to 58 in January, the highest level since this question was added to the survey in April 2014. The current lack of wage growth means the GOP leaders can only tout the major benefits from lower taxes during an elections season when left-wing rage at Trump is likely to motivate record Democratic turnout. A failure on amnesty talks, however, may provide the GOP with a critical political windfall in the months before the November election. 4 million Americans turn 18 each year and begin looking for good jobs in the free market. But the federal government inflates the supply of new labor by annually accepting roughly 1.1 million new legal immigrants, including roughly 750,000 working-age migrants, by providing work permits to roughly 3 million resident foreigners, and by doing little to block the employment of roughly 8 million illegal immigrants. The Washington-imposed economic policy of economic growth via mass immigration floods the market with foreign labor, spikes profits and Wall Street values by cutting salaries for manual and skilled labor offered by blue-collar and white-collar employees. It also drives up real estate prices, widens wealth gaps, reduces high-tech investment, increases state and local tax burdens, hurts kids' schools and college education, pushes Americans away from high-tech careers, and sidelines at least 5 million marginalized Americans and their families, including many who are now struggling with opiate addictions. Amnesty. The cheap labor policy has also reduced investment and job creation in many interior states because the coastal cities have a surplus of imported labor. For example, almost 27% of zip codes in Missouri had fewer jobs or businesses in 2015 than in 2000, according to a new report by the Economic Innovation Group. In Kansas, almost 29% of zip codes had fewer jobs and businesses in 2015 compared to 2000, which was a 2-decade period of massive cheap labor immigration. Because of the successful cheap labor strategy, wages for men have remained flat since 1973, and a large percentage of the nation's annual income has shifted from employees to investors.
Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe our channel for more news videos daily and for what's viral today. Also turn on post notifications and don't miss nothing. A thumbs up really makes me blessed.